and it's just not a need, but also an opportunity. One example which I would like to cover is, and then it tries to cover both aspects of revenue as well as spends, is this one where we started with implementing a distributor management system, and this is something again which is very typical in an FMCG environment where you have a system which covers the entire aspect of the front end. When the sale starts happening, whether it's in primary to the distributor and then secondary to the retailer. And this system, I would say, is the backbone of anything that we may want to do on the front end side in terms of really evolving it and then using it as a growth driver. What this did was obviously automated the entire chain, but also drives a lot of things in terms of visibility of what's happening in that chain, the inventory levels which are there, sales return, also helps in then driving auto claims and the likes. And in an FMCG environment, I think this makes a lot of sense, particularly because of the number of distributors we operate, the number of transactions we have. So I think that was one which was clearly a backbone. We followed it up with Salesforce automation, which is really the handheld, which is given to the front-end salesman when he engages with an outlet in terms of order taking. So while it's a typical traditional FMCG, we used to have a beat book where literally orders are taken on a book, which slowly started getting smarter in terms of a smart book. But now obviously a lot more action is happening because that's where your point of B2B purchase is. And this really helps the front-end salesman improve his efficiency, sell more, provided we obviously enable the person with a lot more insights. But this is more the, again, I would say a bit of a backbone to really unlock a lot more in the times to come. So that was the second one. Parallelly, we started looking at how do we look at our spends and make it smarter. And that's where really looking at all our spends, what's the kind of ROI we make, and what we discover, and that's true for, I think, most FMCG companies. We start with typically a one-size-fits-all when it comes to promotion. But you slowly realize India is not one India, but many Indias. And so is the case with a state. So what promotion would work in one state or obviously will not work in another one. And that's getting more and more segmented for a lot of companies. So people are getting smarter in terms of doing trade promotions, depending on what's the kind of consumer class that we have sitting in that particular locality. So that's the area in which it's going. I would say we are again making baby steps towards it in terms of really segmenting our business and making the spends smarter. But the first step there is given the number of promotions we do share because of the number of transactions, the first step is really calculating an ROI for all the promotion spends, and then using what is it that's working, what is it that's not working, and then of course making those decisions. The last one, which is where I think the real potential explodes, is on smart selling powered by advanced data analytics. And what I mean by that is, with everything that we have spoken about here, you generate a lot of data, and possibly there is lots more which is there in a FMCG environment. Again, we end up subscribing to market share data. We see a lot of consumer data, but the challenge is how do you really bring it all together? And that's where, again, I think automation plays a key role in powering that advanced data analytics. And there are use cases of how you integrate an internal data, which is typically what you are selling, primary, secondary, the promotion spends, ROI on that, external data in terms of market data as well as consumer data, as well as possibly demographics. And then thereby, when you kind of bring all of that together, you can really go and start equipping the front-end salesman who's engaging with the retailer, telling him what is it that we should be selling, what is it that you should be stocking, because you cater to a population which is possibly at the high end, or you cater to a population where a particular price point works best. So I think that's where it really explodes. Again, I would say we're just about making progress there, and the potential there is enormous. So just thought of sharing one example which tries covering both revenue as well as from a spends and back-end automation standpoint. There are many more, which is respect to cost optimization, controls improvement, and the likes, or of course legal compliance, etc. So that's an example, and I'll maybe come back once we open up for conversations and questions.
Thank you so much, Chirag. Thank you so much. I think that was very efficiently done. So a couple of questions here, Chirag. But before that, I think if I were to summarize, I think there were a few key points that you made. One was the percentage of spends as a proportion to revenue, or investments as a proportion to revenue, right? So 20 to 35% is what you mentioned, and that's massive, right? And even for a small or a medium-sized enterprise, which is an FMCG company, I think if that level of capital is kind of deployed in automation or in initiatives like this, I think it's massive, actually, as a collective. The other thing that you mentioned, which is very important, is governance as a growth enabler. And you were right in pointing out that typically people look at governance as a tick in the box, right? So you have to comply with regulations, and a lot of them don't end up complying with regulations. But you said it right when you said that it's the foundation on which you kind of build an enterprise, the foundations of an enterprise. So I think that's a damn good point that you made. On some of the initiatives that you highlighted, especially things like distributor management, where this was clearly a mode of unlocking your working capital, right, or releasing your working capital, or Salesforce, where it's more to do with productivity improvement or improvement in revenues. You spoke about promotion spends, and you also spoke about smart selling based solutions where you can forecast demand accurately, pick up trends, and also consumer preferences. I think all fairly valuable. And what everyone would have noticed is that even though you're the finance head or the CFO of the organization, I think you're clearly co-piloting, as you have used the word. Even as part of your resume, Chirag, you're co-piloting some of these initiatives as part of the business, right? So damn important takeaway for us. So two questions here. One is you spoke about ROI, right? And you spoke about this 2 or 3 times. So can you actually indicate what is the kind of ROI that you have been able to deliver for the business, especially on promotion spends and on the demand and on the smart selling side?
I think purely from an automation standpoint, if I look at it, each initiative would be different, but we have seen ROIs anywhere from 50% to 300%, depending, of course, on where the intervention is made. The biggest ROI, as I was highlighting, comes when you are working on something which unlocks growth, because then it's really a cascading impact and a big one. But also those initiatives are the most complex ones. So, I mean, if you're ready to go for it, clearly it really gives big bucks.
Right. So when you say 50 to 300, again, just simplifying it, you're saying that if you spend 100 rupees, you can end up getting 50% of that 100. So anywhere between 50 rupees to 300 rupees on the investments that you make.
Yes.
Right. And also, would you also like to talk us through some of the systems that you have used, whether it's distribution management or whether it's promotion spends, names of some of these systems or tools?
Yeah, so distribution management has been Botry, I think, which is pretty much a very common system, which is there and used in most FMCG. On promotions, we have an internal tool, which is more a mass one, which is customized to our needs. In most cases, we end up using what's relevant from a market standpoint, particularly in India. I think that's another one which we have discovered that given the nature of market that India is and the complexity it brings in, the challenge we get into, especially with global companies, is just adopting the global tools. And while we made our fair share of mistakes in going that route, we quickly realized that yes, it's not the case, and it might need a different one. So yeah, most of the times we end up using local tools. Very rarely you would have an internal one.
And on the smart selling piece, Chirag, is this a BI tool that you use or an analytics tool?
So it's an entire integrated platform which kind of takes in data from DMS. It also takes in data from our ERP, and then of course we load in more data. The BI is more the front end in terms of seeing what's the output of it, but it's more the engine behind.
And the engine is internally developed.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks, Chirag. This was a good start. So I'm just going to check if Ganesh is back. Ganesh, you want to go next? Are you there, Ganesh? Okay, so NK again. Do you want to go ahead? Looks like Ganesh is having some connectivity issues. So NK.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Give me a minute. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is. NK, please go ahead.
So I think, Deepak, thanks for having me as a participant here. So basically, what excites me about FMCG is the and primarily the consumer goods and FMCG in particular is that the amount of data that is available. I think Chirag in his discussion alluded on that. I think data is available across the value chain in this sector. You talk about either on the demand estimation side, or you talk about the point of sales data, you talk about supply chain inventory, production, logistics. I think there is data available that one can use, and I guess the trick is in knowing how to draw meaningful conclusions and use that data to solve business issues. We've also touched upon predictive data modeling and also historical data modeling. So the trick I believe is how do you use all of this to solve some of the problems that you have. Let me show you a couple of case studies where Practice My CFO has helped customers using large data sets. So the first example that I'll talk about is of a listed company, which is in the business of home furnishings, and having a turnover of about $1 billion, and about having 4 factories and about 20,000 employees. Here, the MyCFO was called in, and we are actually in the process of in the last final stages of completing an 18-month project where we were called in to develop management dashboards, which was primarily in order to fast track the review process. The data here came in from SAP and also from the CRM systems, and also a certain specific manual databases that were maintained in Excel and other data sources. The scope of the project cut across all functions. It was sales, inventory, procurement, costing, finance, supply chain, etc. And the idea was to cut short the reporting timeline and also to replace the existing manual reports, which took a long time in coming. Right. So let me share my screen and show you some of the visuals in terms of the dashboards that we were able to develop for this. So you can see there is some working capital dashboards that we've developed here on the accounts payable receivable side. It talks about the movement of the DSO, DPO, and DIO is moving. You can talk about some accounts receivable. Obviously, these numbers are all masked. You can see numbers in pounds, etc. So these are all kind of confidential, so they've all been masked. You can see the aging of the data. You can see the credit limit and where we stand against that. You can see some element of credit insurance. On the inventory side, similarly, you have data which talks about the aging, which talks about the inventory trend, both in terms of units and value. It also talks to you about the inventory turns in terms of the number of days, etc. So all this data can be pulled out at different levels, right? You could either see the data at a company level, or you could filter the data based on certain categories that you could choose. So again, here I can show you some stock aging analysis, which talks about the different segments in which the stock is available, and the trending of how it's seen over a period of time. This talks about the sales dashboard, wherein you can see what is the sales versus the target. You can see what are the sales by a specific region. You can see sales by over target dimensions across different time zones. So again, as I said, all these are filterable. and you've got certain, you can select the categories underlying any one of these drop downs, and the whole data set would change. So this is something that we were able to develop for this client. I think the biggest beneficiary here was the fact that the client got a single source of information, right? Earlier the client had an issue whereby, if you ask for a sales report, or if you ask for an inventory report, typically the sales review meetings used to take about 10 days from the month close, right? Which and you lose a lot of valuable time in terms of decision making and actioning. Here, once this entire dashboard was developed, access of the dashboards was given to people at multiple levels in the company, and there was a single source of information which everybody was referring to. Obviously, there were access controls, and so a salesman would have access to his own sales data pertaining to his own region or territory, and his line manager would have for his territory, and then so on and so forth. People in the hierarchy would have access to their own information. Another benefit that the client got was, they moved into a common data structure. Earlier, there was disparate data systems. As I said, you used SAP, you had Salesforce CRM. So all of that now sort of got merged into a common dashboard, which everybody would review. These reports are on click, so you didn't have to wait for a long period of time to get them in. You could run formal/informal business reviews, which actually helped them improve their sales percentage by about 2 to 3%, which itself gave an ROI of about 7x on the fees. So as Chirag said, since this contributed directly to the sales growth, I think the large ROI was sort of seen here. The inventory reports was able to reduce their inventory, or improve their inventory liquidation by about 5%, and because then the working capital limits got optimized because of this, and because of which you were able to get an ROI of about 2 to 3x. There was a large 20 to 25 member team across the organization which is preparing all these reports, because there's a large company. You have a long list of MIS folks, and over a period of time the management requirement increased, right, over having to see several reports. So I think the team size had increased, and because these reports were all automated, we were able to redeploy these people and get a good, and that itself gave an ROI on the project cost that they invested in. The project is right now about 75% complete, and as and when we are able to complete it, I think we'll be able to give more ROI. I think this was a very successful project for the client. We are actually right now assisting some of the other group companies also in their dashboarding journey. So that was it about this client. I move on to the next one, which is a case of a packaged foods company. This is an Indian subsidiary of a European multinational. Here, practice was brought in to address the specific forecasting requirements of the holding company. So because this is a global company, need for data, all of that can be sort of easily understood, appreciated, acknowledged. The holdco came in with a lot of reports which one had to provide. And these were forecast versus actual reports. These were so not only was there were about 3 or 4 reports that need to be given for the forecasting. The depth of the data required was beyond what the current team in the client could manage. There were data ownership issues wherein the sales folks or the operations folks would not own the data. Typically, it was more of a finance problem to deliver the reports, and there were an issue with respect of the frequency of the report submission. So earlier, the company used to engage into a quarterly forecast, but I think here the global head office came in with a mandate that they wanted monthly forecasts. So what was our scope? We were asked to then develop a bottoms-up rolling forecast model. We were asked to involve all departments in the rolling forecast process. We also had to develop simulations and what-if scenarios. We had to bring in not only internal variables in terms of bottom-up forecasting, but also bring in an element of external variables. So bring in macro factors like how the oil price would move, how the foreign exchange would move, how inflation, interest rates would move, and how all of that would sort of impact the demand of the products in which the company was into. So this was a large $200 million dollar organization in turnover. How do we go about doing this? I think we had to spend time initially in terms of understanding the client requirements, in terms of the holding company's reporting requirements. We had to also understand what was the current forecasting process that the company was using. Once we were through with that, we came up with an approach paper which talked about the timelines and the key spokes who will be involved. This was a detailed, so this had to be a collaborative project, right? We could not drive this as a finance agenda. So there was a committee that was sort of put into place as a project committee, which involved nominations from both the businesses. When I say businesses, it meant the sales side, the operations side, the logistics folks, the manufacturing folks, and also the finance guys. So the approach paper was drawn up, and a clear time chart was drawn up as to how we will deliver this project. We also then structured the developed the structure of the Excel templates of the various submodules, which was the revenue module, the cost of goods sold module, the inventory modules, the the OPEX cost module, and all of these were sort of broken down and clear.
Sorry, NK, a quick time check. We're just running out of time. Okay, so we
Okay,
have to keep this extremely brief.
Yeah, sure. So we developed the entire forecasting model here around this, and then we had to run this through the HODs for their own sign-offs, and based on which the templates were drawn up, and then we had to upload this to the SAP BPC system. I think the ROI of about 3x was delivered here, primarily because we were able to cut short the time of the CFO from about 2 days to about less than a day, and similarly of the FP&A team. This also gave them a marker with respect to the business performance measures that they were able to align on, and because the entire model was driven bottom up, I think the entire actuals reporting was also based on the same assumptions that we had given. So going forward, I think what are the areas that
So NK will take that up later, I think, as part of the questions. We are just running out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt, but thank you so much, NK. Ganesh, welcome back. No matter how much we rehearse, I think when it comes to the crunch, technology either delivers or it lets you down. In your case, I think it let you down. So, but never mind. I think quickly, if you can actually bring in, put up your slides, Ganesh. I think you're on mute, Ganesh.
Can you hear me, Deepak? Can you see the slide?
Yes, Ganesh, please go on.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption, all of you participants. What I was basically starting off saying is that in an automation, I think the basic foundation of the ERP is essential. It can be SAP, it can be Oracle, it can even be a homegrown application. We have the likes of Tally, we have the likes of Intuit Books. Several of these applications are possibly a given. And, I have those, the third and the fourth bullet point, which is also equally important, for smaller enterprises, because I thought, there are lots of FMCG players who really are ambitious for growth. And today, most of these solutions can also be operable on the cloud platform. You don't need to really invest on CapEx and all that. The whole thing can be variabilized, and that's very important. And I think using this as the cornerstone and the foundation of any business, I think automation can then the true potential of automation can be really unfurled. So the second section I wanted to really spend some time was on the automated workflows. I think both Chirag and Narayan have talked about it. But one example I want to actually give you about MTR is this: during the COVID times itself, we automated as many as 93 processes, which were built into just about 23 workflows, because all these processes could be then integrated into something like 23 workflows across the business value chain. And what it really meant was, all of us were working from home. It really enabled a faster transaction turnaround time. And, you will not believe it. Some of these transactions like claims and all that, which were earlier taking about 18, 19 days, today can actually happen in just 2 days, because everything is happening digitally. And what it also brings to the table is a standardized, SOP, which will be unfailingly efficient. It also has 100% compliance. Audit trails are extremely strong. And I would say the biggest icing on the cake for such solutions is the consumer experience, the customer experience that it brings to the table. Because most of these workflows will have multiple stakeholders, and each stakeholder, it's like, in a chain, the weakest link really dictates the efficiency of that entire chain. But when you actually make an automated workflow, you have to stay disciplined to the process. So the customer experience, whatever the first stakeholder has, it's the same experience that the end customer will actually have. And last but not the least, portability, because whatever we automated in such a way, in such an environment or a landscape, that it could actually be operated anytime, anywhere, any device. You don't need a laptop. You don't need, you can even do it on a mobile. So some of these solutions became portable as well. And I'll give you 3 examples here. The accounts payable automation, which we actually launched early this year, really stabilized during the COVID environment. And that was a huge help for us, because what it did was, the accounts payable function is split between the factory and the corporate office. So since all of us were working from home, it would have been very difficult to actually process some of these bills, which were paper based. So all these got automated, because it got built on an OCR based platform, through which all the bills got scanned, whether it's at the supplier's place or at the factory. And once it got uploaded into the SAP, the 3-way matching system took over from the accounts payable platform. And once the 3-way matching happened, it came up for payment in the SAP. So some of these automated platforms really helped us in a great deal. I think Chirag spent a lot of time on the dealer management software, very same benefits, using Botry. But what we have actually done here, was to also leverage the DMS to get both primary sales MIS as well as the secondary sales MIS. And we ported it into one single platform, which could actually give you many insights in terms of bringing down the inventory at the stockist side. Almost like a replenishment based selling model is actually getting created. And what it really means is, I think most of you FMCG, CFOs will be aware that bringing down inventory at the stockist actually gives a huge benefit to the stockist, from a capital turnaround as well as from a return perspective. So these are some great benefits that we actually see in DMS. The second part of the DMS benefit that we see is the automated claims, because again, most of you are aware, primary schemes are given away in the discount, but the secondary schemes and a lot of those other claims, which are on merchandising, which are on various other spends at the stockist end, if these were also automated through the Botry, and we are able to actually turn around the claims pretty quickly. And all of you are also aware that Botry cannot perhaps be installed at every stockist point. So only those points which are fairly large can be automated by Botry. So all the non-critical mass stockists, we use a platform called Channel Connect, through which we are able to automate the claims. and therefore almost about 85% of our stockists are now on automated claims platform. And similarly, we also have this suppliers relationship module, which also helps us connect with the vendors. And this module, in fact, helps us, integrate it with what is called the C2FO, which enables vendor bill financing. So most of these solutions, which are integratable, give you disproportionate benefits at the end of the day. And as I said a few minutes back, some of these platforms are also available based on OpEx. You don't need to really install everything, on-prem. You can actually leverage it on cloud as well. The last section, which is really the business analytics, which is the most powerful, I would say, the benefit to businesses. And I would say it really provides a cutting edge to the business, as it were. The robust design of your BI, I think Deepak mentioned that right in the beginning, the ClickView analytics platform that we've built, along with the Microsoft Power BI for primary and secondary sales BI, we are now enabled on stockist profitability real time, in the sense that I can actually start looking at a period profitability or an area profitability or a region profitability or an SKU profitability. So all these dimensions, the profitability dimensions, allow you to actually take on the fly decisions on pricing, decisions on scheme. So the sky is the limit, if you actually use this in a very, I would say, in a business oriented manner, because most of the sales at the front end, if we are able to transform their roles into business managers, I think the potential is limitless. That's what I would like to say here. And that really, comes to my third point, which is really empowered teams and neural collaboration. Because if everything is, processized, and there is a disciplined way of approaching any sales activity in a particular region, all the front-end salespeople can actually take business-friendly decisions. And that's what I really mean by, neural collaboration. And, some of these business analytic platforms, whether it's on the cost side or on the sales business side, it also helps us to embed cost control and business orientation in the team DNA. And I think the last but not the least, it's really the single truth which actually, is present across the organization. And since it's available on tap on any device, you could actually take decisions on the fly. But all this will happen only when there is absolute, what I would say, a co-created kind of ecosystem, because all the stakeholders need to really get involved, and there has to be a shared IT vision. The stakeholders need to really collaborate what they really need, and what is perhaps the highest priority, which you will have to launch early. And you'll also have to have a culture of rolling this out using champion users, because the biggest way to actually roll out successfully is to actually pick out champion users in each function and roll them out. And last but not the least, you will also have to have a robust IT security and a training and development platform, which will enable success in every single IT project that you launch. I think with those words, let me end. And sorry for the disruption earlier on. And I think we can take questions from now on, I guess, Deepak. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ganesh. Very insightful. Just a couple of quick pointers, or a couple of quick questions. See, you spoke about the OCR solution. So would you like to tell the audience what is the OCR solution that you're using?
Yeah, so it's an application called Smart Docs. Not a very well-known business, but it beautifully integrates with SAP. And, it basically has two engines: the OCR engine, which really scans all the invoices. And based on the OCR system, it picks out all the relevant parameters and posts it automatically into SAP. Smart Docs as a system enables you to post all these documents which matches on the three parameters, which is really the volume value and the amounts, and once it's matched, it has the potential to actually pay directly. As of now, we have not really used that system yet. We are now using it only for automated posting into the vendors, and we find that almost about 97% of our accounts payable invoices, whether it is a raw material or a packaging material or even a consumable, everything can actually get used, can get posted into SAP on this. And we've had a fairly high degree of success on this.
Right. So I think apart from what Chirag mentioned on the distributor management system, Ganesh, you also brought about, you also added this aspect of vendor financing, and you spoke about this tool called C2FO. Have I got that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, C2FO. Okay. So that's again fairly interesting, and yeah, and again both you and Narayan also spoke about business intelligence, right? And the way it can kind of drive not just, it can not just give you a pulse of what's going on, but it can also drive behaviors, which is what most companies or most successful companies seem to have used business intelligence for, and which is what maybe you have also done it. And just to lastly, I think most of these automation projects or technology projects they are not IT projects. They are business projects, but technology Absolutely. Being used as an enabler. So that's probably the takeaway out of this session. I would quickly like to go and take a couple of questions. We have completely run out of time. Maybe we'll extend this by another 5 minutes and then possibly bring the session to an end. So one of the questions has been on what's been the duration of implementation of the business intelligence tool? Okay, so Ganesh and Narayan, you guys want to quickly respond to that?
Yeah, Narayan, if you will allow me, I'll quickly finish in maybe about a minute.
No.
So business intelligence platform, basically the ClickView platform, the profitability part took us time. The rest of it, which is really the sales MIS, got done in about 4 to 5 months. The profitability, which is really the contribution margin module, which really entailed setting a lot of rules, both in the factory as well as the front end, which is really the CFAs and all that, took us a bit of time. It took us about 8 to 9 months. Although the advisor who was implementing this particular package had promised that it would actually go live in 5-6 months, but we wanted to get it right. And the CM module today is actually it's of such a high integrity. Any changes that we do in price and any rule that changes, we can actually do it in a very user-friendly fashion. And therefore, the contribution margin analytics that we get is extremely useful, to take business decisions. So it took us longer, maybe about 8 or 9 months on that.
Got it. NK, you want to come in on the client that you presented?
Yeah, so I think Deepak, similar experience as Ganesh. So nothing to add. I think given the interest of time, there's nothing much that I have
Sure.
here.
Okay, so couple of questions here. So again, first I'll go to Chirag. Chirag, Ranjit Kumar, this question comes from Ranjit Kumar. His question is, can you share some insights on the governance measures employed for digitization? So what did you do in order to bring your entire governance model on a digital platform?
Yeah, I think so there are many aspects of it. I think one example which I can quote is clearly on the legal compliance, where typically given the complex nature of the various statutes that we operate in, that's one thing which we are practically put everything onto a platform. So, and then we figured out there are close to a good 4,000 plus compliances which normal business would need to do across various statutes, and it's quite possible you might end up missing some of them, and that's one area where we try to do, and it's also an example of what Ganesh was highlighting in terms of workflows, etc., so that it just brings in all of that onto a platform. It triggers if there is a red flag somewhere, if there is a compliance miss which is there. So that's one area where you are kind of bringing in governance through that, but many more examples as well.
Right. Ganesh, you spoke about sustainable cost optimization measures, especially I think when you were explaining the BI tool. So can you highlight some of those measures that you undertook at MTR?
Yeah. Let me explain this in 3 dimensions. The first one is the contribution margin module that I spoke of, because the biggest cost element in the contribution margin will be the raw material and the packaging material. And by developing this business intelligence, through the ClickView module, you for each product category that you have, you can start defining what is your threshold cost, beyond which it will need to get red flagged, either for a price increase or for a reverse engineering as far as cost control is concerned. And price increase is something which is easy, so let me not spend too much time on that. Now, reverse cost engineering, it can actually take 2-3 different forms and shapes. One is, you will end up having 3 or 4 suppliers for the same raw material. So if you consolidate supplies, there is a possibility that you could actually bring down the cost. Similarly, the principle of swimming upstream, because I'll give you the example of almonds, for instance. We used to source almonds from the local market, but rather than from the local market, and most of the almonds incidentally is imported from the US, you could actually directly go to the importer. And once you go to the importer, you can actually shave a few more cost percentage points. So there are different ways in which you can actually implement the action plan. But to identify what is your action plan elements, you need to know what exactly are your cost elements, what are the constituents of cost elements. And I think, therefore, the ClickView on the contribution margin really helped us on that. The second is, I would say, all FMCG businesses, I think a large part of the cost, while it's not significant, but it's still material, is your distribution cost. Your CNFA in terms of your fixed cost as well as your secondary freight. So the minute you become aware what exactly is your market serviceability in a particular geography, you could actually look at either combining CFAs, or you could actually look at having one more CFA at a different location, whereby your primary and secondary freight can be balanced. There are enough distribution software which are there, which allows you to actually optimize the distribution cost. Last but not the least is your overheads cost. What we have done here is, again, on the back of ClickView, we have integrated the budgets as well as the SAP ledgers into what is called an overheads cost MIS. And what this does is, it's not just a functional dashboard, it goes down to the cost centers, and each cost center will have an owner. So you will have a budget as well as an actuals. So by enabling people to really monitor where they stand against the budgets, you are able to actually deliver these analytics, and you don't need to really have these periodical interactions. They can actually look at it online. And because it is integrated into SAP, the drill down facility which is there in ClickView allows you to actually see those transactions. And we actually launched 2 more concepts, which is called flexible budgeting. I think most of you are aware, and the zero-based budgeting. Not zero-based was not implemented in entirety, but conceptually, I think this is something which we implemented. But let me spend a minute on flexible budgeting. Whenever sales drops, let's say if the sales target is 100, it goes down to 90. The overheads actually, the cost which has been budgeted also drifts down on a proportionate basis. So thereby, we are able to actually neutralize in a very significant manner the impact the fixed cost has on the end result, which is EBIT. So this is another concept which we implemented about 2-3 years back, which has been extremely useful, because otherwise your top-down approach that you normally employ to really have fixed cost control will actually be too slow. By building it into ClickView, we are able to communicate the cost cuts virtually immediately, and therefore they are able to select what is the real cost element to be incurred and give up something for later. And these three elements are something which we have driven on ClickView.
Yeah, thank you, Ganesh. Last question, and this is open to all three of you. Anyone can take this. Is there any ERP which can integrate all features and all the functionalities? That should be an easy question.
Yeah, I don't think there is. In fact, SAP, I think in many ways is only a transaction platform beyond a particular threshold level. And this is something which we have seen over the years. And beyond, let's say, a 300 crore or a 400 crore, you will probably have to install a very robust BI platform. And there cannot be a silver bullet, to solve all our problems. That's why I mentioned middleware. There are a lot of these solutions will have to be built on top of SAP. But there is one risk, though, which I must mention here. We should not implement any solution, which you cannot remove at a later point in time, because sometimes the businesses that have rolled out solutions might get merged and you may not get support. So, solutions should be implemented which are easily removable or replaceable by something else which is more cutting edge. So that's something which we have experienced time and time again. So it's important that, we build something which is also replaceable.
Right. And is AI a part of any ERP? Maybe Chirag or NK, you guys want to come in?
I have not seen any of that. I think hopefully in the times to come, we should have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deepak.
Yeah. Okay. I think, thank you, gentlemen. We'll bring this session to an end. I think the sector, as you would have imagined, has been leading the way, the FMCG sector, on digitization and automation. A sector that truly touches every household and probably every living being. The complexity of the business model and the need to operate at scale has driven FMCG companies to adopt technology a lot earlier as compared to most other industries. Digitization has also enabled FMCG companies to manage their cost structures while it continues to introduce newer products across multiple price points. The pace of digitization will only increase from here on, given that the pandemic has altered customer behavior probably forever. With those words, I would like to thank Ganesh, Chirag, and NK for taking their time out and sharing their perspectives and being such wonderful panelists. I hope all of you enjoyed the presentations. These were all practical examples of the work that each one of them had done, either as part of their companies or for their clients. It was wonderful sharing the panel with all three of you gentlemen and hosting you today. Hope we meet again. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Ganesh. Thanks, Chirag and NK.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Deepak, Chirag, Narayan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ganesh.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.